Laura, I think we should start getting ready to go to the hospital. My mother-in-law kept on telling him, tell her to go. And I'd be like, I'm not going. I'm not going to the hospital. I refuse to go. So I really didn't want any interventions. So my husband comes in and says, Laura, listen, I really think we need to go. And I'm like, why? Why? You know, because in between contractions, I was feeling fine. And he's like, well, you're starting to throw yourself on the floor. So I would get on the floor and lay over the bed to help me through the contraction. But I wasn't realizing it. I was just, and in between I felt great. So, why should I go? So he's like, Laura, let's at least get the bag ready. And I was like, okay, fine. So between contractions, I was telling him what to put in the bags because I couldn't do it. I was already having contractions every minute and a half. So I'm like, okay, grab some shorts for you just in case we have the water birth. And grab the baby bag. The baby bag's in the room. The baby bag's ready. And grab me the black top. That's what I'm going to wear. And grab me. I did that the whole time. And it was like, hold on. And I'd lay over. And I'd be like, oh my God. He'd be like, is it over? Is it over? And I'm like, okay, hold on. Okay, now grab a pair of socks for me. Grab me my slippers. So that was, my whole bag experience was like that. So it was really funny. And then finally I realized I hadn't showered. So I'm like, I have to go shower. So I get into the shower. And my mother-in-law would stick her head and be like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you fine? And I'd be like, yeah, because I'd be like going through a contraction. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just a contraction. Oh my God. And she was freaking out. She gets really nervous. So anyway, so finally I finish and I'm like waiting for a contraction to be over to go down the stairs because I live in a house with 2 stories. So I go downstairs and everything's ready. My husband has everything in the car. And I look outside and I realize I have to get into a car. And I look at my mother-in-law and I'm like, how am I going to get in that car? And she's like, call an ambulance. I'm like, no. I can do this. I'm not calling an ambulance. I just have to deal with it. And I get in the car, right? We have a tiny Peugeot. I'll show a picture of it. And I get into the car and I'm having terrible contractions. I was grabbing my husband's leg. And the contractions were so painful. And anyhow, on the way to the hospital, I was already thinking, and I told my husband, if I have to deal with this for 6, 7, 8 hours, I really don't think I'm going to be able to do natural childbirth because I was in major pain. I was shaking already, and I was sweating with the contractions. It was really bad. My husband took the wrong route to go to the hospital because he was so nervous. But he was able to fix it, and we got there fine. Thank God I didn't notice because God knows what I would have told him. Here in Costa Rica, there's a lot of street vendors, and while we were on our way to the hospital, a street vendor came to sell me some fruit or some vegetable, and I remember thinking to myself, or feeling like I wanted to tell him off, but I was able to control myself. I was like, I don't want to be that lady in the movie that screams at everybody and gets nasty, but I did feel like I wanted to. So on the way to the hospital, I call my doctor, and I tell him that I am in labor. And I call the representative of my class in school and tell her that I'm not going to make it to the exam because it's 12 o'clock. And, the 1 o'clock exam was not going to happen. So I call my doctor and I tell him that I'm in labor. I had totally forgot to call him while I was home having contractions. And he told me to call him if I had started having regular contractions, but I forgot. So anyway, so I get to the hospital, and a transporter is taking me on a wheelchair, and every time she would hit a bump or an elevator or anything, it was so painful. I wanted to kill her. So I finally get upstairs, and they put me on a hospital bed, and a nurse goes ahead and gives me a vaginal exam, and she tells me, is this your first baby? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, this can't be. And she keeps on checking me out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm probably closed shut, and I'm having these huge contractions. So I'm like, oh my God. So she calls another nurse, and another nurse comes in. And I'm like, oh my God, what do these people do? Is this your first baby? Are you sure? Oh my God. And I was like, well, but tell me what's going on. Why do you guys keep on saying this to me? And she's like, well, because you're 7 centimeters already. And I'm like, so how much do we have left? She's like an hour and a half. I was like, great. So I was so happy. So they were like, who's your doctor? And I told them who my doctor was. And so they started setting up for a water birth because he does water births. And I was like, okay, he had always told me, listen, you don't have to do the water birth, but get into the water and see how it makes you feel, if it makes you feel more comfortable. And if not, then, we'll have it on the hospital bed or just in the regular hospital room. He does not like going into labor and delivery rooms. He just does regular hospital rooms here, which the private rooms are really nice. And everything gets set up in there so you feel like you're at home. And he lets you get into whatever position you're comfortable with. So they checked me like 20 minutes later, and now I'm 8 centimeters. And they call my doctor, and they tell him I'm 8 centimeters. So he calls my private cell phone. He's like, Laura, don't push. Whatever you do, don't push. I'm 5 minutes away. I was like, okay, I'm fine. I'm not pushing yet. So he gets there within like 5-10 minutes, and he does a vaginal exam on me, and I'm now 9 centimeters, and my amniotic sac is bulging. My water had not broken yet. So he broke my water, and I get into the little jacuzzi. I'll post a pic. I get into the water, and it was really nice. It was warm. It was really soothing for me. It felt really good. So he told me to go ahead and find whatever position I wanted. So my husband was like, do you want me to get in the water? And he didn't want to get into the water. And I was like, well, whatever, if you want to get into the water. So at the moment, in the actual birthing moment, he wanted to get in. So I was like, put on your shorts, get in. He's like, all right. So he got in the water with me, and he's like, my doctor told me you're going to feel like pushing soon. And I was like, yeah, I've already been pushing. He's like, okay, just push when you feel ready. Well, I don't know what time I actually started, but on the video that I have of birth, it was 1:11. There was issues with the camera, our camcorder, and so we had to use our camera's video. And so my mother-in-law I didn't have enough memory to record everything, so she would just record when I was having a contraction. And so in between contractions, I was really good. I was really happy. I'm going to show pictures. I felt great. But when I was having a contraction, obviously it was very painful. So anyway, the video that I have starts at 1:11, and I had the baby at 1:48. Actually, that part felt good. Like when I actually wanted to start pushing, the pushing felt really, really good. It didn't get painful until the end when he was already crowning. So the experience was really nice. I finally, pushed him out. It was not bad at all. The water birth was great. Right when he was born, the doctor handed him over to me, and I put him on my chest. My husband was laying behind me, and we stayed there for a good 5-10 minutes, and then I went ahead and got out of the tub and laid on the hospital bed, and they cut the cord, which was already 10 minutes later, and they took the baby, and my doctor delivered the placenta and did everything he had to do, the stitching, because I had a 2nd-degree tear. And the baby was fine. They brought him back over to me once they weighed him and measured him and gave him his vaccines and the vitamin K and everything else they do to them. And he breastfed right away. And so my birth story was really, really nice. I wouldn't change it for the world. I had natural childbirth, no pain medication, no episiotomy, no Pitocin, no IV with normal saline, nothing. I just had natural childbirth. So it can happen. It can happen. And it's really not that bad. You just have to get through the contractions. The good thing is that your body's made to do this, and so in between contractions you get a rest period, and that helps so much. And then when you get the contractions, little by little, as you go having more and more contractions, your body releases endorphins, and so they don't feel as bad as when they give you Pitocin, where you go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, and it's really painful. So I actually have a couple of friends that are also doctors, and they had their first child natural and their second child with Pitocin, and they both told me that Pitocin is the worst, that it is so painful, that you don't get the urge to push, like I was explaining, that it feels good when you want to push. So for all you ladies out there that want to have natural childbirth, go for it. You can do it. Just have a set mind on what you want to do, and don't get to the hospital until you absolutely need to. I got there at 12 and had the baby at 1:48. Now, you shouldn't do that. I shouldn't have done that. That was irresponsible, but I just really didn't want any interventions. On my second baby, I'm going to be there right away because I'm a very fast birther. I didn't even know. I realized that I was having a baby at 9:30 in the morning, and I had him at 1:48. So next time I have to fly to the hospital as soon as I feel like that's the day. So natural childbirth's the way to go, and I hope you guys enjoyed my birth story.